This is a very dangerous world.
Knowledge is power, and knowledge shared is power multiplied. If you want to make AI reliable, you need to be able to trace back information that was used to train neural networks. NeuroWeb, which is a roll-up on top of Polkadot, is hands down the most scalable blockchain that can support decentralized knowledge graph. We cannot obfuscate accountability by saying AI did it, either for military purposes. I mean, you have companies nowadays that are profiting a lot by providing products where it is AI that is selecting the target.
There's dangers to the individual people as well.
Very bad stuff going on online. There's a lot of harmful content, such as sextortion. Then you would also have revenge porn. And then, even worse, you also have...
The launch team wishes you good luck and Godspeed.
Space Monkeys, blasting off with DKG. He's one of the founders of OriginTrail, and they've got some very interesting news to share with us today. Giga, welcome to the show.
Nice to be here, and thank you for inviting me.
Well, it's nice to see you again. Here in Toronto, actually, home turf for me.
Yeah, it's my first time in Canada.
Oh,
first time in Toronto.
What do you think?
I just flew in from New York. We had a important product release there at the Knowledge Graph conference. We also sponsored that, and later on we moved to Microsoft Garage for a meetup, a meeting community. So it was really plenty of fun, and it was a very rather short trip from New York to Toronto. And I like it here. I actually like it better. Sorry, New Yorkers. I mean, New York's crazy and it's awesome.
Yeah.
But this is amazing because there are much more greeneries around, and
that's nice.
More spacious between buildings.
Yeah, that's true. No, people often say Toronto is like wannabe New York, but we have a lot less grit here and a little bit more green. That's true. So very nice. What was that product you released there?
Yeah, so OriginTrail has always been dedicated to improving transparency and trust in many different business scenarios.
Yeah.
The company I helped co-found quite a few years ago, over 10 years ago, was initially dedicated to improving transparency and trust in supply chains.
Yes.
So physical products and also some of the certifications around suppliers working with companies, associations such as SCAN, which is a supplier compliance audit network.
That's the one that like Walmart and
so on. So basically, most of the major and the biggest importers to the States. So although tariffs are now cool, we kind of are on the side of technology, which helps make global trade also more frictionless. And the consortium, like the one I mentioned, is using OriginTrail to exchange audit reports on over 30,000 factories and companies that are importing to the States. So that's kind of the global trade gig, if I may say. And we had plenty of those, and working with Swiss Federal Railways, and it's kind of our DNA has always been working and helping enterprises to improve transparency, trust, improve frictionless and trusted data exchange with OriginTrail Decentralized Knowledge Graph, which is an open source protocol.
I always bring up this use case to people who I'm trying to explain the value of blockchain to.
Yes.
Because what you have there is you have people who are all part of this SCAN organization.
Right.
But some of them are competitors, right? But what they're doing is they're sharing common knowledge about the state of factories. And it's cheaper for them to share that information rather than send their own people to the factories and basically duplicate the work over and over again, right?
Correct.
So you can trust the data that we put on chain without having to trust your competitors. And that's kind of like the huge value add there, right?
Yeah. So for the first time ever, when we started working with SCAN, you would have big competitors be sharing knowledge amongst themselves.
Sharing knowledge, yeah.
And our, let's say, belief has always been, and perhaps we're not the only ones sharing this belief, was that knowledge is power, and knowledge shared is power multiplied.
Cool.
And even if done in the competitive setting, you can elevate the safety, basically safety in general, and everybody benefits. And that's the purpose of blockchain and decentralized system. So elevating safety, elevating prosperity for everyone, not just one monopolist.
Right, got it. Maybe we should just take a second to go over a bunch of the implementations of OriginTrail here. So you have SCAN, you mentioned Railway there.
Yes.
What else do we have?
So besides SBB, which is
SBB,
it's a Swiss Federal Railways.
I was on the SBB last week.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice. So thanks to what they do, also using OriginTrail, the passengers are safer because it is much easier to establish connections between spare parts and some of the risks that might exist in the entire railway system. So again, it's a network, let's say, problem, because supply chains and also railway networks are networks, and by being able to connect different data sources, you're also able to improve safety overall in the network. So these are, let's say, a little bit more supply chain, global trade problems
Yeah.
that we're tackling. And then decentralized knowledge graph, which is the core technology of OriginTrail,
Where
is
these knowledge assets live, basically, and
where knowledge
are kind of
assets lives. Yeah.
connected, right?
Yes, connected, and they're always verifiable in terms that we know who recorded them, and there is always this lineage of information or information provenance, origins of information.
Yeah.
And when these facts or information is connected in a network, it is always possible for those who are using the network to trust the source by being able to verify
Yeah.
who's behind the source. And this is actually becoming our new slogan, OriginTrail: trace the origin, trust the source.
I love it. The next thing you did with it, I mean, there are many more organizations you're working with using this technology, minting knowledge
Correct.
on the DKG, Decentralized Knowledge Graph. Kind of last year, it was all about NeuroWeb, which was taking the knowledge graph and making it useful
Yes.
for AI. We talked with Brana about this twice in Bangkok, I think, now.
This is the intersection between AI and blockchain, and
Yeah.
NeuroWeb has a very important role to play. If you want to make AI reliable, you need to be able to trace back information that was used to train neural networks or use within, in unison with generative AI to come to certain conclusions. This is a so-called neural symbolic partnership.
Yeah.
And symbolic AI is a rather old branch of AI, and knowledge graphs are a technology, one of the technologies behind symbolic AI. And this is where also decentralized knowledge graph found its home. It kind of opened our eyes a couple of years ago when generative AI became much more popular with OpenAI, along with the problems that it brought with it. We discovered that decentralized knowledge graph is an immensely necessary technology to tackle some of the issues of today's internet, such as deepfakes, false statements, misinformation, and even some of the built-in challenges of AI, such as model collapse.
Yeah.
If you only let AI to be producing information, the information will be degraded to an extent that AI will be just propagating, perpetuating creation of bullshit.
I've seen there's a trend a few weeks ago where somebody would put an image into AI and say, replicate this image exactly. And then within a few generations, it would be like something totally different.
Yeah.
And those small edges where AI is basically like making stuff up, filling in the blanks, that basically spreads false information, bad information around the world, information with no origin except like the imagination, the generation of the AI, right?
Yeah.
This is a very dangerous world.
Generative AI is about guesswork. And perhaps this is about the new sectors where OriginTrail is being used, such as decentralized science.
Yeah.
You cannot do the guesswork. Like, you need to be mathematically precise.
Yeah.
So what decentralized knowledge graph brings to generative AI is a very high level of precision. You're always able to trust the source to trace things back to the data sets that have been used, in that way making use of AI explainable, which is highly important for DeSci, it's highly important for supply chains, it's highly important for financial industry. So basically all industries where every industry, is basically can benefit from AI. And if it wants to, if all those industries want to benefit from AI, they will eventually need decentralized knowledge graph.
Right. It's kind of like upgrading AI with memory of knowledge, because guesswork isn't knowledge. Maybe that's obvious, but sometimes we just trust what the AI is saying as if it is fact, but it's not. Yeah.
I had a conversation a couple of days ago with Grok, and seen Grok having some issues since some of the settings have been changed. And I asked Grok, how could you benefit from decentralized knowledge graph? Grok replied, exciting. I can use decentralized knowledge graph to improve my transparency, and I can improve trust in the results. I'm not, this is not verbatim, but it basically replied very positively about decentralized knowledge graphs. And then one thing that struck me when I in the later section of that reply was, but decentralized knowledge graph would need to be, scalable enough for, such applications to use it. And I was, oh my God, but, you need to be fed this recent knowledge about the V8, which is an advancement of the knowledge graph, which was released in the beginning of this year. And now we're about to launch the V8.1, which comes with an even greater advancements in regards to scalability. And this level of decentralized knowledge graph is already sufficiently scalable that it should satisfy Grok. So we need to feed
Incredible.
Grok with this, knowledge about the most scalable decentralized knowledge graph that is basically capable of servicing AI applications at internet scale, we say. And NeuroWeb, which is a parachain or a rollup on top of Polkadot, is hands down the most scalable blockchain that can support decentralized knowledge graph. Mind you, decentralized knowledge graph is multi-chain, supporting currently Base, Gnosis, and in the past some other chains. And besides that, most recently, with elastic scaling and some other tweaks on the NeuroWeb, we have achieved, tremendous scalability, which goes far beyond than any other chain can support.
No, I got to say, OriginTrail, you're a tech powerhouse, right? I mean, the funny thing is, you guys didn't even start with blockchain, right? You just started with a database of knowledge, and then you added blockchain later, right?
Yeah.
Started on EVM, finally migrated to a rollup on Polkadot and NeuroWeb, and then this V8 is like a recent tweak, which makes it even more powerful.
As builders, we have always been committed to actually building something that others are using. In our case, these others were typically enterprises, and we have stumbled upon like many issues in the early 2017 when we started using Ethereum for that purpose. It was costly, it wasn't scalable, and so on. So
but it's what you had at the time.
Yes, that's what we had at the time, and then came out the first Polkadot white paper, and we had all been eagerly awaiting for the launch of parachains. And parachains actually gave us a tremendous opportunity to launch this amazing technology on Polkadot that would then support decentralized knowledge graph growth to an extent which we previously could not even have dreamt about. So that's really incredible. And going back to Grok, today we can feed in that knowledge that decentralized knowledge graph is more than scalable for the purposes of Grok's AI memory, also with the help of Polkadot technology. The origins matter. That's
origins matter.
Bottom line. You need to understand the sources in order to be able to trust the source. And of course, you cannot always verify the source by simply looking at it. There need to be other references, and it's like a reputation system. So we believe also humans in the loop are very important here. And OriginTrail has been quite a popular technology for AI agents since the beginning of this year. We have implemented some very cool frameworks like ELIZA framework. And anyone can very quickly set up an agent and set up an agent memory on top of the DKG. The challenge, though, is, there's a flood of AI agents on X and elsewhere. So right now, we will have to somehow, now that we have unleashed the AI agents, we need to somehow, put the reins back on. I believe that humans should be in the loop. I believe that humans should be in control.
As long as we can be.
As long as we can be. And I believe we should, fight for that position to be on top of things. We cannot obfuscate accountability by saying AI did it, either for military purposes. I mean, you have companies nowadays that are profiting a lot by providing products whereby, allegedly, it is AI that is selecting the targets. So this is a world where, we would like to change things and then reinstill the accountability and responsibility for humans to be responsible for some of the decisions, or most important decisions. So, but anyhow, not going perhaps into that loophole because it's too much.
That can go pretty deep. This is a nice kind of summary of everything that OriginTrail has been doing. Before we move into maybe what you're announcing in New York there, like what's the revenues of OriginTrail right now?
If you look at the overall network fees, which could be equated as a revenue of the OriginTrail as a network, it amounts to 13-ish million track right now, which is around 5 mil or so in the last year and a half or so. So this is also steadily growing, especially compared to previous years
Yeah.
when the technologies was far less scalable.
Right.
And it is expected to go up with the usage. It's expected to go up as more solutions come online, and hopefully also new builders come online on the decentralized knowledge graph.
Okay, so going back to your trip to New York, you announced something called Umanitek. We heard about this a little bit online recently. This is dealing again with the dangers that AI is presenting online. We were talking about military dangers and kind of large-scale dangers there, but there's dangers to the individual people as well.
Very bad stuff going on online. There's a lot of harmful content, such as sextortion. You've heard about people receiving, texts to share their the photos of their body and so on. Then someone, even fake people, exploit that by extorting or sextorting these victims. Then you would also have revenge porn, some idiot boyfriends sharing images or videos without consent of the other partner. And then even worse, you also have child pornography online. And what's really challenging now, that you even have artificial intelligence that is capable of generating child pornography from original photos of children.
Yeah,
The perpetrators might take from Instagram. Parents sometimes share
exactly. Yeah,
photos of their kids.
sure.
I would say somewhat carelessly. So we need to be careful as parents or as responsible citizens, not to perhaps overshare stuff
Sure.
online, especially stuff about children. And yeah, we could talk about harmful content whole day. There are a lot of bad things, and
It's dark.
the reports about the revenge porn grew by over 110% in the last year. So these are the reports, but of course the actual cases are most likely more plentiful
Wow.
than just the reports.
Yeah.
What we have been kind of building and collaborating with some very awesome people from across the globe was the project called Umanitek. And Umanitek is a quite recently established company out of Switzerland, Zug, which we also helped co-found next to some of the most kind of prominent names from the space, such as Porsche Piech family office, AMIP. And I
Yep.
believe they're also holders of Polkadot. They invested in Polkadot quite early on. So this is how we actually gotten into contact with them. If I, just try to create an origin trail of how this came to be.
I think the Porsche family likes things that go fast, right? So
Oh,
kind of makes sense,
that's
right?
a very, very good point. So we got to meet Chris a few years ago, Chris Rinning from AMIP, and he works with the Porsche Piech family, and he works with Tony Piech, and he's also an automotive builder. So he built a car, electric car. Besides, coming from a family that built like very fast sports car, and now owns, also this big car conglomerate. So each time we came into contact with them, we talked about sustainability, how we can improve supply chains to be more sustainable, and so on. Initially talking about automotive industry,
Sure.
but then we got to have something even more exciting in our site, or something even, let's say, fast paced than fast sports car, which is internet content. So this is where OriginTrail and our partners, so besides the ones that I already mentioned, I'm going to touch upon some others a little bit later, we started looking towards also digital assets, basically internet content. So this is how this partnership slowly and gradually started to forge between us, Porsche Piech, AMIP, and then other founding entities, such as Ethical Capital Partners. And Ethical Capital Partners is also devoted to essentially bringing sustainability to many industries, and internet security, or tackling internet harm,
Yeah.
which is a great problem now, especially in the age of AI, with all those AI risks such as deepfakes and so on. Umanitek's mission was more than called for. So these three founding entities, so our company, which is the core development company behind OriginTrail, AMIP, Piech Porsche family office, and Ethical Capital Partners.
Okay, so How does this technology and the mission of Umanitek address these issues?
The mission of Umanitek is to use OriginTrail decentralized knowledge graph to allow for sharing of fingerprints of the digital contents, also of the digital contents that are harmful. It's kind of like um, developing an immune system on the internet by allowing for not the actual content, but the fingerprints of the content to be shared amongst biggest internet platforms and also law enforcement agents. So this is the so-called Umanitek Guardian Agent, which is the first product of Umanitek, and it was announced just last week in New York at
I
our
saw that.
conference.
Yeah.
This is kind of the pinnacle of the development of on top of the decentralized knowledge graph of a certain product that can very well be this crucial part of the immune system of the internet, tackling online harm and also be able to be used by many different platforms, not just a single platform, because it allows for interoperability. It allows for also, let's say, trusted knowledge sharing in this regard. And this can very quickly contribute to the safety of internet in the age of AI.
Okay, so online we have adult entertainment sites. They're basically like YouTube sites. And what happens is anybody can upload anything. But this fingerprinting, is it like if you had like an authenticated source of adult entertainment, then the platform would know that, okay, this is a trusted source that has, follows the rules to submit this content versus like just some random person uploading something. Is that what's going on here?
Yeah, in principle, you can allow for consent and some other very important information to be encapsulated in such fingerprints.
Yeah.
And you can then, without revealing the content itself, help other platforms really understand is the content that they're coming in touch with that is about to be published, or it's not even published yet. Is it harmful content? Is it at risk to be harmful or not?
I see.
So and similar to some of the, let's say, physical assets use cases such as supply chains, this is where this notion comes in handy. Knowledge is power, and knowledge shared is power multiplied. Having multiple platforms, big platforms, be able to exchange knowledge at scale can really reduce the internet harm.
So the knowledge could be this performer has consented to be in this video, so this video is not harmful content. Would that
Correct.
be like an example of knowledge?
This can be an example of knowledge.
Okay.
Yeah. Verified content, content that is produced with consent of all parties in that video, and this is considered to be verified content.
Yeah, verified
and
content.
things that are not verified, and in some cases, you might have larger internet platforms. So Facebook, for instance, the instances of very harmful content on that platform increased by a lot in the recent years. And imagine now having a shared repository of such fingerprints of harmful content that is being shared across platforms.
Oh,
These
so you can also
platforms
flag
can,
harmful content, of course.
yes.
Yeah.
So these fingerprints, if shared in a trusted environment across platforms with hundreds of millions of users, can help these big platforms prevent harmful content to ever be published. At the same time, it can also help police enforcement agencies to identify where harmful content exists, and they can also pursue the perpetrators more effectively. So it's again an ecosystem play.
These fingerprints, are they stored in the video file, or is it more like an AI is reviewing the content, has some sort of fingerprint of like the way the pixels move, or the data in the video? How does that actually work?
Yeah, so if you go to the Umanitek.ai website, and if you go under products and check some of the glimpses of the Umanitek Guardian Agent, you can see that you can access the fingerprints Of course, this is not available to everyday users just yet, but you are able to use natural language when querying the Umanitek Guardian agent in order to retrieve information about content that is either okay or it is not okay. So that's the idea behind Umanitek Guardian agent. And the more parties we onboard onto Umanitek Guardian agent from internet platforms to also NGOs, non-governmental organizations are also helping victims and are also producing fingerprints of content. And having all these parties involved in the ecosystem, we can again elevate the safety on the internet, much like we're elevating the safety within the global trade.
So Umanitek Guardian Agent has access to knowledge of content that is verified. That's okay.
Yeah.
And it's not only for the, let's say, the producers of that content, but anywhere that content may show up, they can reference this knowledge and verify that it's okay. Is that right?
Yeah. So currently, the first user is sharing verifiable fingerprints about the verified content.
Right.
And then in the future, the idea is to have other large internet platforms to be also sharing fingerprints that might represent also harmful content. And by sharing those fingerprints, other platforms in the ecosystem can more quickly identify harmful content and then take it down. And also law enforcement agencies can react and they can go after the perpetrators, so those who have actually created the bad content.
That's huge, yeah, because of course these platforms don't want to be spreading content that is harmful. But
Yes.
right now, there's no way to identify what's harmful.
Yeah.
It's just all video, unmarked video.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct. And the collaborators here, they all want to fight for good by developing and also deploying such technologies.
Right.
And we're also inviting other platforms to join the game.
Sure.
And in the future, also developing some of the functionalities for individuals to be able to protect their content by creating fingerprints. And ideally, also in the future, the system would be able to identify across platforms if any compromised content exists there that might be similar to the content that was protected by individuals using the system.
It's interesting because this obviously, I mean, it's starting here in the adult entertainment industry, but this can go anywhere. I mean, I guess it kind of gets into copyright as well eventually. You can enter that whole space too, right?
Definitely. It's about IP protection as well.
IP protection.
And that might become, one of the most lucrative use cases. What we're targeting right now is really trust and safety online.
Yeah, I get it.
Because it's a huge problem. But of course, anyone who builds a business wants to build a lucrative business, and IP protection is something that is also being targeted by Umanitek.
Now, we don't have to really get into specifics of who you're working with. I know that information is public, so people can go check it out. The point really is that the adult entertainment industry is one of the biggest use cases of the internet, and you're working with some of the biggest players. And these hashes and also checking these hashes is all going to be happening mostly on NeuroWeb, I guess?
Yeah, it's exclusively on NeuroWeb.
Exclusively on NeuroWeb.
This is taking place on NeuroWeb, on the DKG on NeuroWeb, because it's the most scalable blockchain.
Nice.
Along with some other, of course, enterprise use cases. We, as a builder, the core development company behind OriginTrail, when we implement DKG, we nearly always opt for NeuroWeb.
Yeah.
And of course, there are some other builders that opt for for Base and some other chains, but it's all about giving people options.
Sure.
And we, as a core builder, we always select the option that is the most scalable, which is NeuroWeb.
Yeah, when you have a big partner like this come in, you want to give them the space to run.
Yeah, there's still, spare transactions that can support further growth of the DKG. So we have some room available still, so which is pretty awesome.
You've already implemented async backing to cut your block time down and give a little bit more room. You've implemented the V8 8.1 coming soon, like we spoke about.
Yeah.
Next up on Polkadot is elastic scaling, which allows rollups on Polkadot to harness multiple rollup slots or cores to horizontally scale the entire operation. Any prediction of how many cores you guys are going to be
Oh, it really depends on right now. The good thing is, and we don't want to overburden blockchain itself.
Yeah,
So
no, of course.
with the V8, we have come to certain like innovations that also allow for scaling on the decentralized knowledge graph itself
Sure.
without putting too much pressure on the blockchain. Because even now, we need to be creating some space in the block space so that we can grow much faster in the future. And DKG introduced some scalability tuning features such as batch minting of knowledge assets. And now with the random sampling also landing on the V8, we're getting also an additional increase in scalability. And then in future, we might also look into elastic scaling, the one you mentioned.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, future is exciting. And looking into Polkadot, what Polkadot is aiming to do as a sort of a world computer, kind of decentralized AWS, we feel that there are options, a menu of options we have available in order to support further scaling of decentralized knowledge graph.
Block space is required for minting the knowledge, but is it also required for fetching, referencing?
Yeah, it's required for minting, and it's minting, publishing of knowledge assets, and it's also required for performing game theoretical models between publishers and node runners and delegators. People can delegate the stake in track token on right now 75 nodes, if I'm not mistaken, and they can also claim rewards if they stake for a specific amount of time.
Yeah.
And all of these, let's say, all of this is basically fingerprinted on the blockchain.
Yeah.
Everything is it's taking place on the chain except for the knowledge sharing part, and it has to, because at the end of the day we need to be the system actually in a trustless manner allows for the distribution of rewards, and it is the publishers who are publishing knowledge onto the network that are expensing track, and node runners and delegated stakers are the one who are earning track as fees.
Amazing stuff. Thank you very much for doing this important work. It sucks that the internet is so beautiful, but there's so much darkness right in front of our faces. Like, we're talking about Facebook, like these common public squares that we all visit every day, yet lurking around a single link is something so horrendous. And this work is going to make it so that stuff isn't put before us, is not so accessible, and that's going to go a long way to protecting people.
Yeah, we believe we have all the tools available. Now we need to stick together as the ecosystems like Polkadot and OriginTrail to really show further to the big corporations that decentralized technologies actually make sense. And it really feels that we have done a tremendous step here, not just through the dealings we have with within global trade and so on, but also with Umanitek towards the path where we can really reduce the harm online, and where we can tackle the risks of AI, which are only going to become more present.
Thank you very much, and thanks for coming on the show to talk about it today.
Thank you, Jay.